From Wall Street to Main Street, this is Lalate.
It's a big evening of evenings, Lalate, with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. And the breaking developing details of concerns about recession, inflation, and world economic events that are changing across the board. In tonight's recording, we look at the Build Back Better Act that will pass, the third stimulus, the fourth stimulus, and the sixth stimulus all happening at the same time. First, Build Back Better Act on front and center. Those MSCs and those monthly IRS stimulus checks on top of $15,000 to $80,000. The latest update tonight. Then we look at SS 300 as Jay Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, set to announce monetary policy next week in the middle of a crisis with Vladimir Putin. Will Jay Powell pivot in the month of April, and could this mean more money for your benefits? Then we go to CR for stimulus, the latest update, and why this next week will be fascinating. Then we'll look to the big checks, $80,000 of them. They're now live. They have been launched and they are paying out. We'll look at those incredible checks and how you get them in view of six stimulus heating up internationally, domestically, and even on a state level. Six stimulus is because of oil. Been a major oil developing details overnight. You're hearing for the first time tonight. Trouble with a potential deal with Venezuela. Trouble with a potential deal with Iran. And trouble with a potential deal with Iraq. What is the White House doing to solve the situation as the partner alliances try to pivot off of Russian products, oil, wheat, grain, and soybeans, and not finding a solution quickly? I'll have the latest details tonight. Plus, third stimulus that continues to pay out and get viewers big sums of money. Those details in tonight's recording as well. Then we'll be looking at why the third and fourth week of Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression will be the most fascinating, because then we'll see whether the economic impact at the states, in the cities, and the counties of our country are going to change even more. We'll be looking at the big sums of money and everything you need to know as America's #1 show in prime time starts right now. It's Evenings Lalate, your show for financial news in prime time. And good evening tonight. From the shores of Santa Monica, California to the shores of the Black Sea, we have a lot of money at issue tonight. And we're going to go over everything that folded just since last night's broadcast. It's a special evening's broadcast on a Sunday night from the shores of Santa Monica, California, March 13th, 2022. The breaking details tonight is that the CR for stimulus may get another round at the pony ride this coming week. Why? I have that in today's recording. SS 300, Jay Powell set to give you his March FOMC meeting notes next week, but what about April? He may give you guidance on that, and that is big for your SS 300. Then, the big surprise as $80,000 of checks, stimulus checks, live, paying out. And one viewer got her application on file. She watched Evenings Lalate, and she has pounced. She's not ready to pounce. She's pounced, Purple Hawks. And I'll show you how to get those $80,000 of checks nationwide later in this recording. Then we turn to six stimulus heating up at the same time, not later, right now. This is as view of the energy crisis growing overnight. Breaking news tonight as a situation getting worse by the minute. Why? Venezuela not going anywhere in the deals. Then Iraq and Iran falling apart overnight. Major breaking developing details as the White House has not shored up a partner ally to give oil to Germany and France, and domestically hasn't ramped up production either. This is huge for six stimulus that also has the wheat, grain, and also the banking industry in potential turmoil. Guess what? 8 weeks now, we could be heading into recession if these situations aren't solved. More than inflation, it's recession. All those details coming up later in this video, but let's first start with the Build Back Better Act. The American Fourth Stimulus Recon. 3 clusters of checks and 3 added on to checks. It's going to the finish line, says the White House. This is the fourth stimulus recon that passed the House, is still in the Senate, and the president in a series of new interviews says that it's going to happen. Let's look at each of these checks in details, starting right now. $15,000 to $30,000, $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 of checks across this Build Back Better. Let's look at the first cluster of checks starting right now. Hazard pay got in there for my essential workers. 1 more year of the earned income tax credit. $4,000 of elder care got in there. $3,600 for the children got in there. $4,000 to care for young children as well. The $550 check for the Pell Grant, $12,500 for a new electric vehicle, and also home repairs. If you live in a low-income community, they got those checks in there as well. That is the first of 3 clusters of checks in the incredible Build Back Better Act for Stimulus Recon. The first add-on comes from the shores of Southern California. Maxine Waters got it in there and is a little bit less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. This is money given from the federal government to the seller at the time of escrow to provide money for your purchase, a little bit less than $25,000. Let's now turn to the second cluster of checks. Home repairs and paid leave. Home repairs is to weatherize your home, and paid leave is a lot of money. It is if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness. W-2, 1099, you get the money. How much is it? $1,700 a week, you get it if you make $70,000 or more per year. $35,000 salary, split in half. And if you make $15,000, split more in half. That is 4 to 6 weeks per year, so that is about $4,000 to $6,000 across the board. W-2, 1099, you get it. And if your son or daughter does work and you don't work, but they're all part of a household, then they get the check if they have to take you to the doctor's office. That is the second cluster of checks. The second add-on of checks also has to do with medicine. It is free home health care for seniors and people on disability. Got it in there via Bob Casey on the Senate side with negotiation with those House members. A little bit less than $250 billion got it in there, and it's huge. And there you go. That incredible $250 billion across the board. When we turn then to the third cluster of checks, we get even more money, especially money for our seniors. Free and air for all checks, farmers checks, and independent contractors checks are in the third cluster. Also seniors, no less than a half dozen checks are in there. First, the hearing checks, and then the Medicaid gap fix. But the Senators vow to add in their dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to as low as 55, which is par for the course when we're talking about adding checks to this incredible recon. Among the checks that they vowed to add in there on the Senate side are MSC, monthly IRS stimulus checks. These are checks that would be added to the Build Back Better Act that already has upwards of $15,000 to $80,000 of checks. And the Senators represented the viewership of this channel since May that they're putting it in there. Who gets it? Eligibility would be the same as a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 or less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 or less, you get it. Family of 4, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, you get it as well. It's not income, it's not taxable. It's offered nationwide, not state by state. Goes off the most recent tax return, so if that had direct deposit, that's how you get the check, otherwise in the mail. And away we go. $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter is what the legislators represent to the viewership of this channel. That is MSC, one of the provisions that the Senators vowed to add to the Build Back Better Act. But what is happening right now for forced stimulus that's actually law? That's actually law at the time of tonight's recording is the incredible $80,000 stimulus checks, what we call the fourth stimulus add-on. And it's law. Let's go over the details of what you need to know starting right now about this incredible sums of money. No less than 2 Fridays ago, the White House announced $80,000 of stimulus checks would go live. And those checks are now live. We call them on the channel fourth stimulus add-on, fourth stimulus ancillary. Why? Because it's the same time as fourth stimulus, but here's what you need to remember. Build Back Better Act, not law yet. These checks are law. And the second half of this video, we're going to go over those incredible checks to understand how you get them, what they're for, and why you need to pounce and get these monies right now. Here's the current map, and here's one viewer who got her application on file last night. We'll be looking at that in just a second. But first, let's look at another situation. That situation is inflation. Inflation is huge, and it continues to rise, but will continue to rise next month. If it does continue to rise, that is big for your benefits we call SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, and Veterans benefits. And breaking news tonight about why your SSI and SSDI benefits could get a lift and why that lift needs to happen now and not later. SS 200 was a campaign promise and then a platform of Joe Biden to raise your benefits up $200 a month by swapping out COLA for inflation. How does this work? Joe Biden, in running for president and then as president-elect, promised to swap out COLA for inflation. By swapping out COLA for inflation, you lock in the highest inflation rate of a generation. But when? If it happens now. The question mark is, where is inflation going? And that is a big issue tonight. And I have breaking news on this front. Remember, the way that SS 200 works is that Joe Biden wants to swap out COLA for inflation. You want that swap to happen when inflation is at highest price point, because once your benefits go up, they never go down. You do not want COLA to be swapped out for inflation later in the year when inflation has gone down. So let's go over the breaking details on this front tonight and what to anticipate all this week on Lalate Evenings. First, what's at issue is that inflation is currently at 8%. So if Joe Biden made the phone call tonight to swap out COLA for inflation, you'd be set, locked in at the highest rate of inflation of a generation now in the month of March. Well, what if Joe Biden made the phone call in April? What if he made the phone call in May? We have new data tonight that suggests what could happen if the president waits on this and what would happen to your benefits. Let's do the analysis starting right now. The analysis starts with trying to gauge where inflation is today, 30 days from now, and 60 days from now. And part of the equation involves one man, and that man is not Joe Biden, it's Jay Powell. Jay Powell, as head of the Federal Reserve, is tasked with the duty to reduce inflation in the United States. How does he do it? By raising interest rates. When? One of five meetings or 5 of 5 meetings over the next 5 months. The next meeting is just in a few days from now, the March meeting. Jay Powell has ironically already told us what he's doing for the month of March, but not given us guidance for the next meetings. So what do we need to know? Number one, the interest rate spike for March will be a 1/4 basis point, the lesser of two evils, weak. For the month of April, we don't know what Jay Powell is going to do, but here's the breaking news tonight. Number one, the Consumer Price Index number released last Thursday showed us the inflation rate for 30 days away from us back to February was at 8%, 7.9%, exactly as I predicted. The inflationary rate for December 2021, exactly as predicted all last year, 7.5%. So where is the inflation rate right now? We don't know, but I got to tell you this. Number one, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the inflation rate for last month on Thursday, 7.9%. And 24 hours later, on Friday, bond traders basically reacted to CPI and saying, I think inflation right now is higher. So what did they do? They traded up the 10-year Treasury note based upon that thought process. And that is why you want to watch this week on Evenings LA to see if the bond Treasury note continues to rise. This is the 10-year Treasury note that rose 1 basis point on Friday to 2.016 based upon bond traders believing that inflation numbers are actually higher or much the same than they were the month before. Remember, inflation comes out a month after. So that's item number one. If inflation is higher, that's good for you, because if Joe Biden makes a swap out, you're good today, March. What about April? In April, Jay Powell is set to announce his policy at that April FOMC meeting. But here's part of the analysis. Whatever Jay Powell does, weak or aggressive, doesn't affect the economy for at least 30 days out. So if Joe Biden makes a swap from COLA to inflation in April, we're good. So you're good for March, you're good for April if Joe Biden makes a swap. May, we're not sure yet. Why? Because if Jay Powell comes in more aggressively in April, then by May, inflation could drop dramatically. Inflation could drop from 8 to 5, 7, 6. We don't know. What we do know is at the moment is that Jay Powell's watching the same metrics as I am, and you are. Number one, that CPI number from last Thursday, 7.9%. 2 months of 8%. A little bit too aggressive for Jay Powell. He doesn't want to see that. That's the first thing he doesn't want to see. Second thing he doesn't want to see is his counterpart overseas, Christine Lagarde, who is head of the ECB, the European Central Bank. She said on Thursday that inflation is actually higher right now than many people think. So she came in very aggressively in her policies. He's going to look at that and say, maybe I should come in aggressively for potentially April. Number three, he's going to look at the bond traders, just as I just mentioned them to you, and say, well, those New York bond traders, those Chicago bond traders, they're trading up based upon inflation being higher. Maybe I need to come in more aggressively. Translation, Joe Biden make the phone call. Joe make the phone call. Hashtag Joe make the call. Make the call to swap out coal for inflation now. At the highest price point. How does this work? Remember, once your benefits go up, they never go down. So if you're locking in at 8% now or next month, you're locked in. You raise up $200 a month now, lifetime. That's why you want to lock in that higher rate now before inflation goes down, because then you don't lock in $200 more per month. You lock in $80 more per month or $60 more per month. Now, later this year, Jay Powell will get inflation down, and that's still good news for you, because even if you get the $200 lift up now, when inflation tracks down later this year to, let's say, 4%, then you'll get another $60 to $80 then on top of your benefits, SS 300. There you go. Now let's turn to CR for stimulus, breaking details on that. The President of the United States this week is set to unveil his ancillary piece of CR for stimulus. Let me tell you what went on. Last week, the continuing resolution passed and became a law. There was no $2,000 stimulus check in there, but in a strange turns of event, there was stimulus in there, county stimulus. Let's go over the details and why this is so shocking. In 2020, I made history by coming up with the idea of putting a $600 stimulus check in a continuing resolution in December 2020. The pushback at the time was it doesn't belong in there, because a continuing resolution is to fund the federal government. We got it in there, the Purple Power community, and it became law. Now, during the last few weeks, we've been pushing to put stimulus in there again. Ironically, what happened is that the same people who said it doesn't belong in there 2 years ago, this week put stimulus in there, but county stimulus. Yes, not federal stimulus, but county stimulus. So reach out to your county, look to the county news. In case of Georgia, there's a lot of articles detailing this county stimulus. That is now law in the CR. Number two, the President of the United States will be unveiling another piece of legislation this week. Why? Because his money did not get in there. The president was asking for COVID money in the CR, did not get it. And now the White House assures the American people he's coming back with another piece of legislation. This could potentially have a stimulus check in there. Now remember, I know there's a lot of stimulus packages covered in this particular recording and on this channel, but don't get them confused. People are asking, did they put an MSC in the CR? There never was to be an MSC in the CR. There was supposed to be the advocacy of a $2,000 stimulus check. The MSC is the Build Back Better Act. That is where that belongs, because that is a much larger piece of legislation. $1.5 trillion discretionary spending does not give enough room for $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 of MSCs per household. Now, the White House debuting that piece of legislation in the next few days. We'll watch it. Jen Psaki, the president's press secretary, detailed the push. If we had the money around, we'd be moving on. And our assessment is we need more money, so we're going to push on for it. Raj Kinamorshi, the Democratic Illinois representative, says that the White House is running out of money. How is this possible to leave it upon ourselves to not get it done? So this will be detailed this week. I told you it's a big week. We got that. We have Jay Powell. And then we have more bond traders giving us indications of where inflation is going. But we're not done there yet. In the second half of this video, we're going to look at an incredible $80,000 of checks. You're looking at them right here. $80,000 of stimulus checks are now live. They're paying out. It's what we call fourth stimulus add-on or ancillary. we're going to go over how to get these incredible $80,000 checks, which you're only going to hear on the #1 show in prime time for financial news, Evenings LA. It's coming up in the second half from the shores of Santa Monica, California. Then we'll be looking at the big money in 6 stimulus. Overnight, the oil situation went from bad to worse. And I'll tell you why. Here's a hint. It's several countries not coming to the table. Venezuela, Iran, Iraq. I'll have the latest details on what unfolded and why it's not good news for us domestically in the United States, not good news for our partner allies, France and Germany, and not good for the global economy as well. It's coming up in the second half of Evenings LA. Stay with me. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. We'll have more about these incredible details and more as we go into the second half of Evenings LA, direct from the shores of Santa Monica, California. But first, if you need help, here's a little bit about the community page tonight on Evenings LA.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LA Daily for the excitement of the new LA live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LA at 9 a.m. Home LA returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LA at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LA Late.
And the excitement continues right now in the second half of Evenings LA from the shores of Santa Monica, California. I hope you're good and safe. Let's get to it right now with the exciting great news of $80,000 of checks that have gone live. You need this in the face of a confusing economy, recession, inflation, and more. I'll detail that later in this recording. And those 6 stimulus. Oh boy, we got a big second half and the latest situation with oil. But first, we're going to start with, of course, those $80,000 of checks. You need them, and they are live. $80,000 of checks are now paying out across the board, and I'm going to show you the latest details on how to get it, what they are, and what that money is. But first, let's start with the actual map at issue. This map shows you where these checks are currently live in the United States. And the situation is very, very exciting. A series of checks have been launched in a new program announced by the White House, but not covered in broadcast media, called the Homeowners Grant. Let's go over the details of these checks, what they are, how you get them, what's the eligibility, and how you have to pounce as a Purple Hawk, and how one viewer overnight got these checks as well. Let's go over the details, or apply for those checks as well. Let's go over the details starting right now. Build Back Better Act, fourth stimulus recon, not law yet, but fourth stimulus add-on ancillary piece of legislation is law. It's this one, $80,000 of checks. For who? You. And this is why you tune into this channel, because guess what? This was announced by the White House 2 Fridays ago. Broadcast media and print media never covered it. You heard it only on LA. This was a program rolled out by the White House quietly, and it's underwritten by Treasury, but administered by your states. First, what is it? How much? $15,000 to $80,000. Yes, it's a lot of stimulus checks. Number 2, who qualifies? If you own a home and you qualify for a third stimulus check, it's you. If you don't own a home and you're a renter, I got money for you in a second. It's coming up later in this video. It's called third stimulus. So what is the income qualification? The great news is the income qualification is the same as a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 or less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 or less, you get it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get it as well. Let's go over first that income qualifications. Now, remember, when we talk about a stimulus check, we often talk about doubling the check if there's a married couple. Not in the case of this. The payout is $15,000 to $80,000. So you don't double it if it's a married couple or quadruple it. Again, the income qualification is $75,000 or less, $150,000 or less, married couple, the same as a third stimulus check. Number two, you have to own your own home. And then you're ready to rock and roll. Just those two qualifications, the income and owning your own home. So if you're on benefits, you can get this if you own your own home and you're within the zone of income qualification. If you are on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, SSA, you can get this as well. What is it called? It's called the Homeowners Grant. And as soon as the White House announced it 2 Fridays ago, I immediately released it to the membership of this channel. That is where you get it. As a member, it immediately appeared in the membership newsletter last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, and it will remain and continue to be in every membership newsletter ever since. At the top of the newsletter, it will feature the name of the program, the full complete name, the website link, the eligibility, the sums of money, and what it pays for. Become a member today. The membership link's at the top of the chat and under the video's description. By becoming a member, you get that membership newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. Let's go more into the money. So the money pays for a lot of items that viewers have wanted coverage over the last year, but we haven't had it, like property taxes, association fees, rent, repairs, and similar items like mortgage and utilities. These are huge items across the board, and they are in there. Again, average payout is $15,000 to $80,000. So how do you get the money? Open the membership newsletter, get the information, and apply. Now let's go over the status of the applications tonight. And the status of the applications look very much like Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, Day 1 of this channel, April 25th, 2020. On April 25th, 2020, from the shores of Hermosa Beach in California, I recorded the very first video of this channel. We were on lockdown. California was on lockdown. Americans were on lockdown. And on April 25th, I recorded a video for 2 viewers, 2 total viewers. And I said, hey, there's a new program going live in 3 days from now called PUA. Apply today, April 25th. Don't wait to April 28th to apply. Those 2 viewers, they applied. And guess what happened? On April 28th, 3 days later, they opened their computer or their wallet or their bank account, and they saw the money was in there. It was literally in there. When the program started going live in complete capacity in those respective states, the cash landed that day because they had done what's called a pre-submittal authorization. In the case of California and other states, they were accepting applications on the 25th. But they weren't paying on the 25th. When they started paying on the 28th and they were complete open live, then suddenly the money appeared. Now here's what also happened. For viewers who waited on April 28th to see, oh, they're now paying out money, I'll apply now. They did not get paid on March 28th or March 29th or March 30th. In fact, they didn't get paid for over 1 to 2 months later. So that's why you apply right tonight for this money. Open that membership newsletter if you're a member and get that application on file. Now let's go over the details of this map, and let me go over one success story for one viewer who listened and learned and did really well overnight. You're looking at a current map of the situation, and the map denounces both teal, green, and pink and gray. Now let me make something very clear. Number one, the program is going to pay out in every single state. So if you see your color gray, what does it mean? It means they're a little bit backed up before going live. Doesn't mean that they're not paying. It just means it takes a little bit of time till they pay. Every state has different computer systems. Some are more modern, some more ready to adapt. California, Texas, Florida were ready to go live, and they are live. So if you're in a teal state, like California, Florida, Texas, New York, they currently are accepting applications, and they're currently paying out. That's what teal means. So go apply today, and you'll get paid very quickly. In the case of Ohio, Mississippi, South Carolina, Nevada, Oregon, Colorado, Montana, they're pink. What does that mean? It means they're accepting applications now, but they're not paying out now. Aha, there you go. That's PUA all over again. You want to apply today. If you're in South Carolina, you don't wait for South Carolina to switch from pink to teal. You apply today because this is the money that's available right as soon as it goes live. Now, remember, this is nationwide. It is everywhere. And so if you are gray, just understand it will take up a little bit more time, but gray may mean you can get the application filed today. It's just they're not paying out today. Remember, do not wait for the state to turn teal. Apply today if they have the application portal open. And here is one viewer's success story. Her success is measured by me, which is she listened, she learned, and she pounced. Here is Patrice Guzman. I listened to Lalate Evenings, and I applied for the homeowner's stimulus. She says in last night's Evenings Lalate show in prime time. It was not difficult at all. They said I applied successfully. Thank you. I'll let you know what happens. I'm in Texas, and they have the homeowner's program. So here is a viewer who watched Evenings Lalate. She understands the importance of applying quickly. She applied quickly, and once she got the application in, they said, thank you, your application is complete. You are ready to get funded in the future. So there you go. She understood the importance of pushing. That's what you should do as well. Again, this is $80,000 of checks, number one. Number two, it is nationwide. Number three, it is everywhere. Number four, the eligibility is the same as a third stimulus check. And number five, if you're a renter, I got money for you coming up later in this video, so stay with me. Now, remember that this may have overlap with some of the other items in this recording. I'll have money for home repairs later in this recording. Yes, you can get it from 2 different places across the board. With that, let's turn for just a second to what you need to know for 6 stimulus. But before we do, how do you learn how to apply for this application? Go right under this video right now and become a member. The members get the newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. The membership newsletter features the application to apply for this $80,000 of stimulus checks. It features the application, the link, the name, the details, the eligibility, and the program payouts. Become a member today. The link is under the video, and get that application on file. The membership newsletter is delivered by the YouTube alert system, which is, if you watch tonight's video, or before you watch tonight's video, you got an alert from YouTube. It's that type of alert system. It's sent out from YouTube at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. It's not sent out by email. It's not sent out by PDF. It's not sent out by lobsters. And it's not sent out by a waivable check at the beach either. So there you go. Sign up for the membership newsletter and get that. It is featured every membership newsletter. So if you didn't get the first one, it'll be in the next one, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alert system. And there you go. Now let's turn to the other developing detail tonight, and it's 6 stimulus. 6 stimulus is the latest stimulus package that will happen at the same time as 3rd, 4th, and also potentially 5th. When you hear a numbering system on this channel, it's because I'm separating them out so you know what they are. It does not mean we have to go and finish 3rd before we start 4th. Obviously, later in this video, I'm going to show you how to get 3rd stimulus at the same time as 4th stimulus, the $80,000 of checks. You don't have to finish 4th before we go to 6th. They overlap. Why? Because they have different purposes. I can use numbering systems. I can use letters. I can use colors, but I'm using numbers, so do not think that you have to wait for 4th before you get 6th. Let's go over the details of what 6th is and why this is the biggest anticipated stimulus package since 1st stimulus. 1st stimulus was for COVID. 2nd stimulus was proposed for COVID. Of course, it never became law. 3rd stimulus was passed for coming out of COVID. And 4th stimulus, Build Back Better Act, is for coming out of COVID. 6th stimulus is not for COVID nor coming out of COVID. What is it for? It's for that guy that's causing everyone a lot of problems, Vladimir Putin. Yes, 6th stimulus is Putin-caused stimulus. You may also think of it as oil stimulus. You may also think of it as wheat stimulus. Or you may think of it as the banking industry stimulus, but I think of it as Putin-caused stimulus. And it's not pie in the sky, it's a reality. And let's go over the details of it tonight and the breaking news you need to know. Sixth stimulus was first unveiled by the alliances of Germany, France, and the United States when they understood that they needed to get off of Russian products. 2 weeks ago, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken went to Germany and said, you need to get off of Russian oil. And Germany said to the United States, we're not doing that. We're too dependent upon Russian oil. But then the United States said there's a moral issue of getting off of Russian products. France understood it, and then Germany understood it. And they understood morally they have to get off those products. So what did this alliance formulate? Here's what's at issue. Number one, sixth stimulus starts as an alliance between United States, France, and Germany, where the leaders are all progressives. Number two, it's teed up for about April. Why? Because that's when France's leader, Macron, will see whether he's reelected. U.S. and France and Germany's leaders are still in place. Number three, the concept that Germany understood after Blinken pushed back was that Germany needs to get off of those Russian products. And to get off those Russian products, what does Germany have to do? It has to debt spend. It has to raise its national debt and then issue stimulus to its citizens because the citizens cannot afford soaring gas prices, soaring wheat prices, or soaring corn prices. So that is the concept behind sixth stimulus. You have to get off of Russian products, and to do it, you have to raise your national debt. The reason why sixth stimulus is needed is because why? If you don't do it, you see the R word, recession. Everyone understands from Germany, United States, and France that if you do not do sixth stimulus package, any respective partner allied country goes into recession. Remember, you have to solve it domestically and internationally, because if the United States doesn't go into recession, but Germany and France does, then we get yanked into recession because of them. That's how it works. So let's go over the details of the breaking news on the sixth stimulus tonight. This is brand new, and it starts with France and Germany. The breaking news on sixth stimulus tonight is that France and Germany's leaders reached out to Putin on Saturday, March 11th, and got no deal. Surprise? No surprise here. France and Germany reached out to Putin to negotiate a ceasefire and an end to the Ukrainian war, and Putin, of course, said no. Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany and France's President Emmanuel Macron could not get a deal with Vladimir Putin. So no deal. Sixth stimulus is happening. Let me make something also very clear. In the event that Putin lays down arms a week from now or a month from now, sixth stimulus would likely still happen because the economic harm that Putin has digested has actually already happened. So that's what's important to understand. That is part one of tonight's sixth stimulus update. Part two of the update is actually worse, if there can actually be worse. And that is the oil situation got hideously worse overnight. Let's go over the details of what's unfolding, and so you understand why this is a very, very bad situation going from bad to worse. When you look at sixth stimulus, I call it Putin-caused stimulus, but there's really currently three economic issues that need to be fixed. One, oil. Two, commodities like wheat, grain, soybean, and corn. And then three, the banking industry. This is what sixth stimulus is to fix. I'm going to go through each of them one at a time. First, the oil situation tonight is worse than it was last night on the March 11th edition of Evenings LA. Tonight on a Sunday night, it is a very bad situation internationally. Why? To fix oil, you have to fix oil domestically and also internationally. You can't just ramp up production domestically because we'll go into recession because our partner allies won't have oil. Let me show you the analysis. Gasoline prices in the United States are going up. Why? Because there's a shortage of gasoline, and that shortage is about to increase. Why? Because the impact of the delivery of gasoline won't be felt till late March because of the invasion of Ukraine. And moreover, more countries are going to get off of Russian oil because of policy moral changes. There's also the threat that Vladimir Putin will turn off Nord Stream 1 that funnels all the oil to Germany, 40% of their oil. So in getting off of Russian oil, what needs to be done? Number one, increase production domestically. Number two, get our partner allies to get other types of oil delivered to them. What's the developing details tonight? Both fronts are getting worse. Number one, let's look at the international situation tonight. The ability to get oil to our partner allies has really gone from bad to worse tonight. Let's look at each of those countries and what unfolded in the last 24 hours. Number one, Venezuela, the number one exporter of oil internationally, the number one producer of oil internationally, is still not part of any discussion by the White House because they have major sanctions against Venezuela, and they're not vowing to remove them just yet. So Venezuela is still not part of the equation for the White House, and likely not part of the equation for the partner allies. That's number one. Number two, Iraq, part of the OPEC Plus allegiance. OPEC Plus had suggested that Iraq could increase production, but that was a rumor. It was not actually an on-the-record comment. Guess what happened? This week, we saw that OPEC Plus is likely not to increase production, despite the U.S.'s abilities or inabilities to get OPEC Plus to increase it. OPEC Plus includes Russia. And with that part of the equation, Russia is pushing back and telling OPEC Plus, do not increase production, stay with those Russian oil. That's OPEC Plus and Iraq. Iran, the situation worse tonight. In the case of Iran, the United States has been trying to broker a nuclear agreement with Iran. Iranian oil is not in the circulation because of a long-standing embargo by the United States and our partner allies. Here tonight, major developing details on that front as well. This is called the Joint Comprehensive Plan, the JCPOA 2015. The White House was trying to get us back into a deal with Iran that is a result of negotiations for weeks on a nuclear agreement. No less than 2 weeks ago, well now actually 3 weeks ago, on day one of the invasion for Ukraine, I told you the White House was trying to get this nuclear agreement done, and if they got the deal done, then they would not need Venezuelan oil. They could get Iranian oil into our system, and that would be potentially delayed as late as May or June. Tonight, indication that there is no deal. Tonight, indication that the negotiations are off. Yes, this is very bad, folks. So, on day one of the invasion, I told you that the White House could get oil for ourselves and also our partner allies from Iran if they got that negotiated nuclear deal done by May. Tonight, the negotiations are off. And why? Number two, Putin. Again, here we go. Putin stopped the OPEC Plus countries from increasing production, and now Putin has stopped the negotiations on the Iranian front to be finished. This is a return to the JCPOA agreement from 2015 that would increase production from Iranian oil for our partner allies and us. And the EU coordinator is shocked. In a new comment from Vienna obtained by Allied News, German and French negotiators thought this deal was done. They thought they were literally on the finish line, potentially earlier than I predicted for May. But tonight, France and German negotiators said in Saturday in a joint statement that the comprehensive deal on the table was fair and ready for conclusion, but the talks have been paused. It's our understanding that the Iran and U.S. have been working hard to finally resolve the bilateral issues. No one should seek to exploit the JCPOA negotiations to assurances that separate them from the JCPOA. Translation, Vladimir Putin interfered with the negotiations and got the talks to pause, meaning no deal for May, no deal now, and negotiations have halted with Iran. Venezuela out. Iraq out. Iran out. What about UAE? We're running out of choices here. And this is very troubling because guess what? Vladimir Putin has the ability to turn off Nord Stream 1. Yes, the pipeline that funnels 40% of the gasoline into Germany overnight. And he could literally throw Germany's economy into recession because they have no gasoline ready for them at all. This is getting very scary, folks. So with Venezuela gone, Iran now paused, and Iraq no longer a part of the equation, what about UAE? This is where the White House should have gotten this done a long time ago. UAE has suggested it's open to increased production, but it's deferring back to the OPEC Plus countries, of which it's a part of. This is where the White House should have focused less on showing up Latvia for strategic alliances and should have focuses on economic alliances like UAE. UAE is not a sanctioned country. It's not an embargo country. And with the situation unraveling, this is very bad. Here's what is issue. As detailed on this channel for the last 2 weeks, gas prices currently in the United States are not sustainable. The numbers are the following. $4 a gallon, and if it stays at $4 a gallon through May, we go into recession in 2022 for 2 years. This is not a future that anyone wants across the board, and the future is getting bad by the moment, bad by the second. The White House has less than about 7 weeks to pivot on this. And remember, you can fix our gasoline domestically. You can increase our production domestically, but we can go into recession if our partner allies don't get their gasoline. Why? Because if Germany and France go into recession and we're totally fine on our production of gasoline, guess what? Germany and France will drag us into recession. It's much like the last recession. Remember the last recession? Certain countries, certain cities, certain states went into recession before the others because they drag them in. In the case of the last recession, the East Coast went into recession first, but West Coast last. In the case of the last recession, certain world economies dragged other economies into recession before others. This is what you don't want to have happen. You don't want to wake up tomorrow morning and hear Vladimir Putin turned off gasoline to Germany, that Germany has no gasoline for it, that it's going into recession, and that suddenly we're going into recession. This would defeat the entire purpose of this channel for the last 2 years to get you economic stability. If there's economic instability caused because the White House has shored up deals with Venezuela, Iran, and Iraq, suddenly we go into recession, and this is not a good situation. Brent crude tonight is trending a little bit higher, about 1012, but and the AAA average at the pump is about 433 a barrel. But the situation is very troubling because no allegiances lined up. Now let's turn to domestically what the White House can do and has not done. The domestic front is very easy. Increase production. But where? West Texas, Gulf. On last night's Evening Lalate, I detailed to you that West Texas may not be the solution. We have another alternative, the Gulf part of Texas. West Texas gasoline is seen by some analysts as too high, not ready for the pump. It needs to go into refinery mode, so it would not be immediately available to swap out for Russian or similar Iranian oil. That's not to say it can't be done, but it's not ready for it. The gasoline would have to come from the Gulf of Texas, which is more equating to Russian, Venezuelan, and Iranian oil. But the situation for the White House is they haven't done it. The situation for the White House is the following. The White House has understood this problem since day one and hasn't dealt with it. Let me go over the details of where we are tonight on the White House's front. First, the White House has not solidified any partners' countries' gasoline. So the White House has done zero. When I mean zero, I mean zero. It's done zero to get gasoline for our partner countries, Germany, France, Italy. They can go into recession overnight if they have no gasoline and it's turned off. So this is a big problem. You can't have our partner countries go into recession. We go into recession. Number two, domestically, the White House has done nothing with increase in production of gasoline domestically. Let's make very frank. The White House is playing a dog and pony show. It has to stop. It has to stop. It started with the White House being evasive for 2 weeks, as detailed on this channel. I'm not playing games here. The Treasury Secretary's undersecretary appeared on broadcast meeting, was asked, why don't you increase production? He refused to answer the question 3 times. Then when asked why West Texas reached out to the White House for guidance and was not getting response, that individual also gave no response. Let me make very clear. Texas oil producers are ready to produce more gasoline since day one of this invasion. But they need to get clearance from the White House. They've asked for the clearance. They've gotten no response. The week ended last week with the Energy Secretary pivoting. The Energy Secretary pivoting and saying, you know what? We'll increase production short term. It's a good idea. We will. We want to. We like to. That doesn't cut it either. Because again, that is not a solution. The West Texas, the oil producers, whoever they are, need that statement quickly. We're only 6 weeks away from falling into recession. That move needs to happen now. Let's understand, this has been a situation we all knew since October of last year, because why? There was 100,000 Russian troops at the border. I detail on this channel. I say if Putin invades Ukraine, we have an energy problem. We all saw this. You saw it. The White House knew it. They issued a statement to Treasury to analyze the situation, so they understood it. Did they have gasoline lined up? No. They have gasoline lined up for a part of hours? No. So now that we're in the 3rd week of the invasion, what has the White House done with this? Zero. It has no gasoline lined up for its partner allies, number 1. It has not increased production domestically, number 2. It has not figured out a situation across the board, number 3. It's been evasive on the subject matter. Number 4, it keeps on talking about electric vehicles. Even the most democratic, the most blue state news reporting channels and broadcast media tonight are saying, I got it. We are dedicated to EV and clean energy. This is just a situation that has to be fixed for a few months. if we think the war is going to go on for a few months, if it goes on for a half a year, then a half a year we fix it. We're not dealing with Vladimir Putin for 5 years. We're just dealing with him for a few months. You got to do this now. This is time of the essence. This is an urgent situation. Joe Biden doesn't do it, we're going into recession. We're going into recession. It's a very make or break moment for this presidency. And I got to tell you, he's going to be really put to the test if he doesn't do this quickly, because everyone's going to understand this. Everyone understands that West Texas can increase production, that Joe Biden has not increased production, that Joe Biden is tweeting electric vehicles. Everyone sees it, everyone understands it, and everyone doesn't understand why the White House hasn't increased production. It's very simple. Republicans and Democrats don't understand it, and anyone that's talking about buying a $70,000 electric vehicle is out of touch. Now let's go to the second part of the equation. The second part of the equation is the partner countries. The partner countries have no gasoline lined up for them. Third part of the equation is the wheat, grain, and soybeans. This is where it gets more complicated. At issue is that gasoline can be fixed very quickly, very easily, very expeditiously. Wheat, grain, soybean, and corn have been disrupted and are likely to be disrupted for years to come. Why? You look at the beautiful Black Sea region of Ukraine, where the town of Odessa is located, circled by Vladimir Putin, but not yet invaded. The crown jewel of the 1700s, created by Catherine the Great. It is spectacular. Look in the Opera House. What is that Black Sea region also known for? Yes, wheat, grain, soybeans, corn, and similar agricultural products. They are not imported to the United States, but they're imported to our partner allies again. And guess what? They're not being imported because Vladimir Putin is at war with Ukraine. So this is not a problem just internationally. It's a problem for the United States because our price of wheat and grain is going through the roof, the highest seen in nearly 10 years. Shortage of grain internationally means shortage of grain internationally, means prices go up domestically in the United States. So if France can't get their wheat because there's less wheat, our price of wheat goes up, even though we produce it. And guess what? It's not a 1 month problem. The farmers that would normally pick the grains in Odessa or around Odessa are not picking wheat because they're battling a Russian troop invasion. And they're not preparing the soil for next season, next crop rotation, because they're battling an invasion. And the crops won't be ready for 2 seasons or 3 seasons to come because they're not watered, they're not irrigated, they're not prepped because of an invasion, and they may actually be damaged because of an invasion. So this will result in wheat, grain, soybean, and similar agricultural commodities going up for years to come. This is not a 1 month walk in the park. That is why 6 stimulus is heating up. The third issue is very fluid, and this is where we get more scary. It's the banking industry. The banking industry in the United States has exposure to Vladimir Putin and his devaluing economy. And that exposure is the most important reason for 6 stimulus at issue. At the time of this recording, for March 13th, 2022, we as Americans do not know how exposed our U.S. banks, our publicly traded U.S. banks, are to Vladimir Putin's economy. How much do our major U.S. banks have invested in Russian bonds, Russian stocks, or similar instruments in the Russian economy? Because guess what? Those items are about to become valueless. The Russian economy is in free fall, from 10th largest economy in the globe to the next Cuba. And as it falls in free fall, guess what happens? Devaluation, loss of credit valuation, and the instrument that the U.S. bank would have bought for some value at some time is about to become valueless. So what does this do for us domestically? It means that you're going to wake up one morning and hear a corporate earning Q2, Q3, or Q4 that says, hey, we're a bank, and we're reporting that we have a $500 million loss because that Russian bond we bought 2 years ago became credit junk overnight in Russia. This could send our economy into a tailspin. This is the third type of recessionary worry, and the one that I'm worried about most because no one knows the risk. No one can assess the risk, and if you can't assess the risk, you don't know what's on the horizon. And guess the last time we saw something this scary? The last time you saw something this scary was the largest stimulus package before COVID. And who did it? Joe Biden and Barack Obama. The end of the George Bush Jr. administration saw the banking industry going under, and Obama and Biden had to come in and save the banking industry. You don't want them to have to save the banking industry, but this is what 6 stimulus is about. potentially. Not just oil, not just wheat, not just soybean, but also that as well. Meantime, finally, third stimulus. Exciting, great news as third stimulus continues to pay out. And I'm excited for the viewership of this channel. More viewers on Evenings LA last night got that sums of money. Here are the success stories that came in overnight. Last night, Simba, who was watching the show in prime time, said I helped my friend get $5,900 for rent yesterday. Thank you. That's brand new overnight. So where do you get this money? You're going to reach out to the following places. You want to reach out to 6 places to get these sums of money. All featured in the membership newsletter. County Hall, City Hall, your City House Authority, your County Hall, and your County House Authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. You're going to get multiple rounds on file. You're going to apply in 6 places, and you're also going to lean on those nonprofits. Success stories in the last few days have included Melly Pinn, who got $9,000 watching the show 2 nights ago. Carol Moore, who got $5,000. David Allen, who got $10,000. And another viewer who got 1 year of rent. Lean on the nonprofits because they fund these monies as well. They also pay for home repairs. Yes, you can get overlap for these items. Get these sums of money right now. Don't wait. Get these sums of money from third stimulus. Again, these are for renters and for homeowners. Whereas those $80,000 of checks you can get if you are a homeowner. And there you go. Those incredible details across the board. As we go into the final minutes of tonight's recording, what do you need to know? The coming week will be breaking details left and right. We're going to first see what Jay Powell does with that FOMC meeting in March. We're going to see if he gives us guidance for the month of April, number 1. Number 2, we're going to see if the president unveils that CR add-on for COVID and if there has enough wiggle room in there to put a stimulus check. We're going to see the latest update on that map for those $80,000 of checks and see if new states have gone live. We're going to learn more about what's going on with the energy crisis and why 6 stimulus keeps on heating up. We're going to see if there's any ability to get Iran or Iraq back in the equation or Venezuela. And then we're going to look at that SS300 as inflation continues to surge out of control. Can the White House get it under control with Jay Powell or can it not? It's a big night with a lot of money. For now, get that membership signed up and get that incredible newsletter that comes out Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Features the big money for third stimulus, features the big money for those $80,000 of checks. Finally, a personal message. Today we learned the passing of a beloved personality. Her name, Tracy Braxton. Tracy Braxton was confirmed dead today in a statement posted on Instagram by her sister, Tony. She, of course, was one of the wonderful, beloved members of the Braxton sisters, featured on the reality TV show Braxton Family Values. Braxton Family Values was one of the earlier shows featured on Lalate, which launched in 2007. Braxton Family Values came to the airs in 2011. It was a show that initially took a little bit of time to gain footing and then really took off. Toni Braxton was a single voice and brought a lot of social issues to her platform, not only on TV, but off TV. She was also featured in a lot of other reality shows, and people who watched Braxton Family Values understood her personal struggles specifically and understood how she was a voice of reason, a voice of hope for many of us. Keep the Braxton family in your prayers tonight and keep all your thoughts across the board. Coming up later tonight is a continuation of this recording with I Stand Union for Crane at 7 o'clock. Evening's Countdown at 6 o'clock and Evening's Extra at 8 o'clock. Then watch for a new show called Sunset LA coming to this channel on 9 o'clock shortly. For now, stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful evening, and keep your prayers of Ukraine in your hearts. Nightly, tune in for more as we look at the situation unfolding for all these big sums of money, your economy, your recessionary concerns, your inflationary worries, and what's happening internationally and domestically. If it happens, it's in prime time on the most watched show for financial news, Evenings at Lalate.